Unfortunately, tomorrow I have some medical tests to deal with, so I will not be able to make it. But I really appreciate you keeping me in the loop and ask that you continue to do so. Thanks, Vicki. Hi, Sophia. Sophia, I apologize. I've been meaning to get back to you. I've been in meetings all day. I did get your email about your quiz. Unfortunately, I can't have you take it at this point, but
Yeah.
you're doing well. It's only 15 points. It's only one. So
I'm really sorry about that. I honestly, I have no idea how I missed it. I'm
it
just
happens.
yeah.
Don't get yourself too worked up over it. It's only 15 points. So as long
Okay.
as you continue to do okay, you'll be fine. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
How's
you.
everything else going? Okay.
Yeah.
I like your lights and your.
I'm staying at South Campus apartments right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess that's good. At least you get to be out of the house a little bit.
Yeah. I kind of go back and forth between home
Okay.
just for extra
Wait,
help and stuff.
now how is South Campus? Is it are there a lot of people there?
Kinda. It's nice though. It's
Okay,
like
good.
the junior people.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Hi, Brianna. Oh, I don't know. We're gonna get the word on next semester soon, I think.
Yeah. Hopefully.
I don't know. I don't have a lot of faith that we'll start out. I think
Yeah.
we might be starting out. I think I'm just guessing. I don't know anything. I'm just guessing that we might start out,
Online again.
and then maybe as things get better, move into class.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah. How are your other classes going? Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
My grades are pretty good so far, which is good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see. How about you, Brianna? How are you doing? Okay.
I'm doing well. Keeping up with everything.
Good. The rest of your life okay? You're getting out a little bit?
I've been trying to. I get out when I can.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I do apologize about missing last week's class though.
Okay. Well, did you get notes and stuff? Do you know what we're doing?
Um, I am in the process of getting notes. We're trying to get everything figured out with her. But other than that, at the moment, I don't have a note.
Okay. Well, I think you're okay. I mean, I can't even. What did we do last week? ADHD. I think was the debate stuff. So okay. All right. Well, it happens. We have about 12 minutes, guys. I think about 12 before we start. I'm going to go get myself a drink. There we go. Hey, hi, Justin.
Hi, how are you?
Hey, how about yourself?
Just busy with work and stuff.
A lot of work. Yeah.
Are we gonna do any group things? Are we editing our names or
Yeah,
no?
we do group work. Yep, that's a given. I should probably put that up, but I just assume you guys will do it right.
Yeah, I just didn't know since it was a new chapter if we were gonna switch anything. Thank you.
Nope. Yeah, Brianna and Sophia, if you can rename yourselves and put your group numbers, that'd be great. Justin, do me a favor. Go into the module on ED and put yourself, well, I guess you won't be able to see. No, you won't be able to see. This is going to be a little hard today in groups because I had to rename your groups a different thing. But okay, we'll work it out. Because you're really part of the ED presentation groups.
Okay, well, if there's anything you need me to do or help you with, just let me know.
Thanks, yeah. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 groups. Yeah. All right, we'll have to see what happens. I'm not sure what will happen here. Hello, Kyle.
What up?
Hey, hi guys. Who else came in? Brooke. Hi, Brooke. Why is it letting me rename this? Let's see here. Hi guys. Everyone's coming in here. Let's see, substance abuse. Okay, hello everyone. We'll begin in about 3 minutes. Depression, anxiety, substance abuse, trauma, neurodevelopmental. Okay. Okay, hello everyone. Again, as usual, I just haven't been putting up the online protocol because my sense is we should pretty much all know it by now. Please rename yourself and put your group number. Thank you. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. I have 3 o'clock, so we're going to begin. It's hard to believe, but we're in week 6. Week 6 of the course, all your courses. And so I know from great experience that now is really getting crunch time for all of you. The work starts to pile up. So, all I can say to that is keep accessing your professors when you need. Take care of yourselves. Get out. Go for walks. Do what you need to do to take care of yourself, okay? I'm going to start out, as always, with any questions and answers in terms of anything at all related to the course or life or
I have
advice.
a quick question.
Yep, go ahead.
For your virtual hours, if I were I find the link for that Zoom, like for that day on the syllabus, right?
No. I was having problems with office hours, so what I did is said, you need to request the link from me.
Okay.
So you let me know an email what office hour you're going to come in and just request a link and I'll send it to you.
Okay, so if I wanted, could you do today? Then if I sent you an email.
Mhm.
Okay,
Sure.
thank you.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, just send me the email now and then you're going to are you going to be right after this class? This one?
Well, I'm meeting with my group, so after that.
So the 5:15 office, so the 4:15 office hour.
Yeah.
Okay. Yep. That's
Thank
fine.
you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Other questions?
For the I'm pulling it up. For the discussion board for this week, one of the cases, I think, I'm pulling it up right now.
Mhm.
One is it's the emotional and behavioral the Terrence case study. There you go. When is that due?
We're going to go over that today, so I'll be in just a little bit with you.
Yeah, thank you.
But other questions? Interviews are going okay? Yeah? Okay. All right. So today then, let me share my screen. And let's go to that. Well, let's first look at the ADHD quiz. And, one or two, life does happen. Things happen. We're human beings, right? And we're not perfect. And so, if you happen to, you miss something, it's not good if you miss a lot of quizzes, but if something happens where you do, it's 15 points. Just get back on track. I can't always reopen them. Sometimes I can, but I can't always reopen them for various reasons. But anyway, when I look at the statistics, again, really good class statistics for the last quiz, which was ADHD, right? So that's good. When I look at the question stats, all right, and then I look at 50% is my criteria. So if I look for a question that's really low, I say, let me look at that question to see what the problem is, right? So, because if you remember, there was one quiz where one of your classmates found an error, and so you all got a point, right? So that could happen. But so this isn't 50%, but it's low. So what I do then is pull it up, and I say, let me take a look at the question, right? And so this question was, each of the following is true of students with ADHD except. So these are sometimes sort of obnoxious questions. I call them obnoxious questions on quizzes because you have to do the true and accept, right? So what you're looking for is ruling out all of the ones that are true, right? So children with ADHD, do they have difficulty maintaining many of the friendships they do form? Well, part of ADHD we know is difficulty with behavioral characteristics, difficulty with relationships, different with behaviors. So that might be true. So I'm going to sort of step over that one for now. They report that they have fewer close friendships than they do those without ADHD. So here's another one about relationships. They are less likely than other students to be seen as bullies. They are more likely than others to be seen as both bullies and victims of bullying. So really the best answer is the one that's marked as correct there. They are less likely than others to be seen as bullies. So children with ADHD, part of their characteristics from the textbook and the PowerPoint is that, you know, a lot of behaviors. So you have attention problems, you have hyperactivity in some children, you have impulsiveness in some children, and in some children you have both hyperactivity and impulsiveness. All right, so that really is the best answer. Okay. So this week you're going to be working eventually on chapter 7 quiz, but are there any other questions from the ADHD quiz, chapter 6, that you want to go over? Anyone? Just shout it out if you do. Anyone? Okay, again, a 91.85 is a solid A. That's a solid A as far as class-wide statistics. Now, if you're someone in this range, and I don't look you up individually unless you ask me to discuss quiz issues with you or grade issues. I don't look you up. But if you're someone falling down below a C, D range on your quizzes, you need to probably try to figure out what's going on. You know, are you reading the chapter? Are you really listening well to the narrated PowerPoints? Are you taking notes on the PowerPoint notes I provide you? Are you understanding the content? Maybe you're reading it, but you're not understanding it well enough. So you know, try to figure out what it is you need to do. Okay? No questions? Let's move on then. So this week, we are covering a category of disability, and I didn't put up the agenda, but today what we're going to do is we're going to sort of start out backwards, right? We're going to start out with the activity, and I'm going to be honest with you. Sometimes these groups are not coming out exactly the way I want to, even though I work with instructional designers to design. Sometimes these groups are not where I want them to be. So in other words, when I put you in your group, I'm crossing my fingers that you end up in your group. All right, we'll see what happens, okay? But don't worry, we'll adjust if need be. So you have in this module, as always, my introduction. You have your synchronous, you have the chapter with your Ed Puzzle quiz. You have an interesting video on emotional and behavior disorders. We'll get back to the case of Terrence, all right? And then you have this assignment right here, which is due 10-4. But for today, I'm going to actually help you to complete that assignment. So we're going to essentially set it up. So I say we're starting backwards because I'm starting by giving you an assignment where you might be like, well, Dr. McGinley, I don't completely understand the connection, right? What is this thing called DSM-5? And how does it relate to children with emotional disturbance, right? So it might not feel good yet because you don't know what it is. So I'm going to tell you what the DSM-5 is, at least to get you started. And then once you complete the activity, we're going to make the connection to children with emotional disturbance, okay? But let me just ask, does anyone know what the DSM-5 is?
Doesn't it deal with mental illness?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit more. Anything else?
It's a tool that a lot of like psychiatrists and people would use to diagnose somebody with a mental illness.
Good. Yeah, that's right. Good. Yeah, so psychologists and psychiatrists use what's called the Diagnostic and Statistic Manual to make diagnoses. And so what I did right here, I hope it works, is I gave you, and you might have to log in. Yeah, what's going on? Oh, and it's not working. You might have to put the link in a browser. Let me see if it works that way for me. Yeah, you might have to do a copy. See how that works. Yeah. Slow. Okay, yeah, so it will take you to Westchester University, your library website, and it will take you to, why isn't it giving me the link? Link to WCUP library. It's going to take you to the library, and we should see the link for it. There we go. You're going to have to log in. One of you will log in. And it will take you to, eventually, it will take you to the DSM-5 right here. Here it is. Now, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm just going to go through, I want to find the table of contents, actually. See if I can find it. Close your eyes. I'm scrolling fast. Okay, sections. All right, I am having a hard time getting to the table of contents.
I think the first section you were at, like where it had like section 1, section 2, section 3 is like the table there, that is their table of contents.
Right here.
Yeah, but then once you like do like the drop down
Okay.
on either sections, yeah, it'll show you.
Okay.
Are you looking for the whole manual?
Section 2.
Because there's a link on D2L that just says if you click this, it can help you, and it's the entire like book.
Where is that at? Can you tell
So
us?
if you go back to the ED module and scroll to the bottom again where you were at the, and then stop, right, go up a little bit, and it says the DSM, no, like where it says complete DSM-5 group research, right there.
I did it for you. I forgot. Thank you so much. Good. So you don't have to go through that nonsense I was just going to have you do. So there is the DSM-5 manual, and it's downloading because it's long. It's like, it is a whole thick manual. But once it downloads, you get to your table of contents and you can find the section you're in. And all I want you to do, you can use the DSM-5, you can also use a Google search, is once I put you in your groups, and I'm going to cross our fingers, but I'm going to join each of your groups to make sure it works, is I want you to essentially do a one-page information sheet. That's all, right? A one-page information sheet on your particular assigned group, right? So what is your assigned group? You'll either be in again, I'm going to go the easy way, which will be right here. You should hopefully end up with your group in either depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, eating disorder, substance abuse, trauma and stressor related disorders, or neurodevelopmental. Now, why I think this might not work 100% well is there's only seven groups here, and there's 8 groups in our class. So if you're in the 8th group and you're sort of stranded, don't worry, I will assign you one, okay? I'm gonna give you about 20 to 25 minutes max. Again, you're only coming up with a one-page information sheet. Now, what should go on there is just tell us what, if you have depression, for instance, tell us what it is, how it's defined, and what are some red flags or characteristics about that. So in other words, if we have a child in our classroom who has obsessive compulsive disorder, what will that look like in the classroom potentially? What will anxiety look like in the classroom? What will depression look like in the classroom? Okay, everyone good with that? Okay, let me try to get you in your groups. Don't worry if it doesn't completely work out, I will adjust. But again, 20 to 25 minutes, a one-page information sheet, okay? All right, here we go.
I have a quick question
Mhm.
about it. So on the rubric, because I was reading the rubric, and it's saying kind of the opposite of what, like, not to give not descriptions. Wow, I can't speak today.
I'll come into your room because I think some people won't hear you, unfortunately, because they're already, well, no, I didn't do breakout rooms yet. I'm sorry, go ahead, keep going, I'm listening.
So it says, I'm trying to find it. I just lost it, but it says kind of the opposite, that the rubric says that we shouldn't be giving you definitions.
You're not, you are looking at the rubric for
Oh, the interview.
a whole different assignment.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, sorry.
that's okay. This is group activity for participation. It really doesn't have a rubric to it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Sorry.
No problem.
So is it only one person in the group then making the page?
Correct. So put your name, all your names on it. As usual, when you do group work, put all your names on it. Okay.
Yep.
So let me, group 8, bear with me. Kashia, I don't know what group you're in because you didn't rename yourself. So please rename yourself with your group number, okay? Group 8, I'll be with you. Okay, so Kashia, you're group 4. Okay. Justin, okay, yeah, I know you're group 8. All of my group 8s, hold on, give me 1 second, and then I'll be right with you, okay? I'm gonna assign you to something. Okay, so are you all, okay, I wanna make sure you're all in the right group. You're all in your group 1 group. You're all the right people,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good, just wanna check.
Okay.
Oh, you're muted.
Yeah, I can. You're muted.
You're muted.
Put you in your room right now, and what I want you to do is I will assign you a topic, okay? Just give me I'm going to put you in your room and give me a second to assign you a topic, okay?
Okay.
I go to click on like the whole link for the ED presentation groups. It says that the only group that pops up for me is neurodevelopmental.
Okay, we'll fix that.
Okay.
Okay, so my thing says,
I'm sorry.
what
go
is your guys'?
It's neurodevelopmental.
Okay, yeah, that's what mine says.
Okay.
So what's going to happen, guys, is what's going to happen is I'd like you to do personality disorders. Your document may end up in neurodevelopmental, but don't worry, I will find it. Okay? Because the problem was when instructional design was only setting this up, they only set up 7 rooms. We needed 8. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Because it's been running for 2 hours straight on Zoom calls, so it's definitely like gonna overheat, but it's fine.
Okay, guys, you had a question. Someone had a question for me from group 5.
Oh, sorry. We have a
Oh.
member from group 4 in here, and I don't know.
I saw that. I moved her.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's why we.
All right.
Also, for substance abuse, since that's kind of a broad topic, do you want us to narrow it down or just kind of be broad about it with any?
You can be broad. I mean, I understand there's all kinds of substance abuse in terms of alcohol, drug related, that kind of thing. But I think that the important point is to define it globally and then to look at the characteristics and how that would impact in the classroom. In other words, it might not. Yeah. Okay. Broad's fine.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry, guys. I had a couple questions and I know you were waiting. So what's up?
So you said 1 page, but then you told us to use Google Slides. So should we just do like a title slide and then 1 slide with all the information?
That's fine.
Okay.
That's fine. Yep.
I
Okay.
also had a question. Are you gonna have a office hours like right after this? Because I just have a question about the interview.
Yeah, so what you should do is at least email me quickly so I can give you the link for the office hour.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay.
How you guys doing? Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Good. Okay.
Paper because it says like as if you were giving it to a teacher
Okay.
to inform them. So I feel like she wanted it to be more like a paper.
You said there's no rubric, so like, this is the only participation. It's not like a.
So
Big-
what you're doing is thinking about, defining it and then how it would look in the classroom. So this is really just, that's why we have a one-page document. Okay. To share.
So do you want it to be like written out or do you want it to be like bullet points?
Bullets are fine.
Okay.
Bullets are fine. Yeah, I don't think you have time to write a whole paper.
Okay.
Only giving you 20 to 25 minutes. Now, certainly you can add to this, after class, but I wanted you to just start this in case you had any questions, and we're going to tie this into emotional disturbance in about 5 to 10 minutes. Okay.
And I also have another question. Do you want us to just strictly like focus on how like a teacher will notice anxiety in a student, or do you want us to write about how like a student will feel?
Well, it's, how will you know how the student feels? What will you see?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. It's a good question though. Yes. Okay. I'll be back.
Thank you.
Which one?
Like
Under which one?
undermine or something. I don't know where do I add a bullet? Where is it not?
How are you guys doing? Okay.
Yeah, we just is this what we're like submitting for Monday or whatever?
Yeah, for 10-4, I think it is. What's
Yeah.
that fall on? Does that fall on Monday? That falls on Sunday. But I
Oh.
wanted to start it today so that you know what you're doing, and we can sort of tie it in about 5 minutes to emotional disturbance.
Okay, so like you're saying we just like we did the definition, we're doing like things that can be like related to it and just like some facts about it. Like,
Right. So you have a child with OCD that's in your classroom. How will you know that child has OCD? What will you see? Right. So what comes to my mind is, children who have very routinized routines, like some children with autism that might actually have problems when their routine is messed up for whatever reason. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah. So what would you see as a teacher?
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Mhm.
Okay. The first like sentence for like defining it.
All I have is rumination disorder, continuous regurgitation of food over 1 month.
Yeah.
Okay.
I was reading something, but it didn't make sense in my mind. So
Okay.
that's probably it was my fault.
Okay, so number 2.
Let me just say one thing, and this one is a tricky one because a lot of it's primarily gender-based, although certainly males can have eating disorders and do have eating disorders, but this is one that many females will hide and try very hard to hide. So when you get to the part where you're talking about what will you see in the classroom, right? What might you see, right? What might you notice? Okay. And there's some things as a teacher you can notice, but it may not be, it may be a bit challenging. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Elise, for that one, sorry. I was talking to Elise. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so I checked in once with you guys. You look like you're doing fine.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Okay. Okay. Okay, I did not realize that there's only 2 of you today.
Yeah.
Is that typical when you go into your breakout that there's just 2 of you?
No, there's usually a third. Leah is usually here.
Okay, okay. How are you doing? Are you okay?
I think so.
Okay, good. Okay, good. All right, it looks like, just me quickly looking, it looks like you are.
Okay, cool.
Well, he's one of three, and he's one of three, and he's only, I would say he's about maybe 5, 6 years old at this point. I think almost like 5 years old. Hey, Dr. McGinley.
Hi, how you guys doing? Okay?
Good. I will share my screen so I could show you our sheet.
Okay, great.
We honestly weren't exactly sure about this one. We had to like look it up and understand it first.
Well, good. That's
kind of a lot of them all together.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah, and it is, you're right. I mean, when you look up this topic in the DSM, there's a lot of different categories.
But does everything look like it's supposed to?
Yeah, yeah. So my question is, where do you have what it would look like in the classroom? You have it. I mean, you have, let me see, treatment. Okay. Oh, okay, right there, your symptoms. I'm sorry, I was sort of looking down further.
No, no problem.
Yeah, looks good. We're gonna come back
Awesome.
in about 5 minutes.
All right, cool.
Are you presenting these?
Technically a little bit, I'll say. We're not gonna flash on the screen because we're gonna run out of time, but I am gonna ask you questions about them in class.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, I'm gonna upload this to our folder then.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Let me do that.
How are you guys doing?
Good.
Good.
We had like, oh, I have a question. Since like personality disorders have so many different kinds, is it okay if we just list like each kind? Like, do we have to? We don't have to define each
Yeah,
one.
there's so many. There's like 10. No, you're not going to define. I think I would just look at the very top of the DSM and like what globally, how are globally personality disorders defined?
Okay.
You know, certainly you can list like,
Yeah. Okay.
but
That's
and
what we
how the important part is how might you recognize that a child, again, you're not a psychologist, so you're not going to diagnose the child, but what might send up some red flags in the classroom?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Thank you.
About 5 minutes, okay.
Okay.
Okay, let's see where we are here. Okay, all right, I think that most of us are back. Let me just show you how, I don't know if you can see how thick this is, right? But this is the DSM manual, right? So it's massive. And again, this is the, let's see, this is the main tool that psychologists and psychiatrists use to diagnose children and adults with mental health challenges, right? So, we're gonna circle back around to this, but make sure you drop it into the Dropbox, right? And I wanted to give you some time. So my question is, you know, we're on a module that's emotional disturbance. Why did I have you look at the DSM-5?
A lot of them fall under mental illness categories that are defined in there.
Okay. Any other thoughts? I mean, that's certainly a good one. That's a great one. Any other thoughts?
I mean, like similarly to what he said, like I know like when I was kind of like reading through it, a lot of them started with they can be related to emotional disturbances.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't have my headset on and there's another, let me turn that off. Come from 800 service. So emotional disturbance is an educational label, right? That's the educational label. All of these that are in here, you may never see, right? So you may have a child in your classroom, for instance, that is seen by a community mental health practitioner, maybe seen by a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Maybe you have people in your family that were diagnosed with a mental health challenge, right? But it will not be on the IEP, right? And the thing is also, mental health diagnoses can also accompany other disability categories, educational categories. So for example, a child with ADHD might also have clinical depression. A child with a learning disability may have an eating disorder, right? But many of our children with emotional disturbances are have mental health challenges, and they also have, if they're seen by a community practitioner, either a psychologist or a psychiatrist, they may have a mental health diagnosis, okay? Now, a lot of times in class, and this is why it's important to read your textbook, go through your PowerPoint, go through the narrated PowerPoint, that we don't always have time for me to flip through the slides. So I want to point out a couple things to you about this population, right? In your textbook and in the PowerPoint, it very clearly states to you that this is the category of disability that usually is in the most restrictive LRE. What does that mean when I say the child in the category of emotional disturbance is usually in the most restrictive LRE? Someone explain that.
Generally, I guess because they cause too much trouble in less restrictive environments.
Well, some of them may not. Some of them may actually never talk and put their head down on their desks. But you're right. A lot of them are there because of behavioral issues, right? Mariah?
I was just going to say because they're unable to function best in the general education classroom.
Okay. Other thoughts? Both of those are right. Kyle and Mariah gave good answers. Any other thoughts? Guessing's okay? It does have to do with a lot of the external behaviors, right? So your textbook and the PowerPoint distinguishes between children that have internal behaviors, exhibit internalizing behaviors, and those that exhibit externalizing behaviors. What's the difference? If I tell you, well, you're going to get a child in your classroom that is exhibiting internalizing behaviors, what am I saying about that child? Potentially. Is that a child that would be depressed, or is that a child that might be OCD?
Would it be depressed because it's in, did you say internal?
Yeah.
Yeah. So an OCD is kind of an external, like
That's a
you're
really
more,
yeah. Yeah, and that's a right guess. So when we say about externalizing behaviors, really those are the ones that are the most disturbing to classroom teachers, because that's aggression, that's verbal aggression, that's physical aggression, that's property destruction, right? So there are children in the emotional disturbance category that exhibit externalizing behaviors. And then there are children, one of my student teachers had a young woman who could make it to school, but she couldn't lift her head off the desk. She was so incredibly clinically depressed, right? Now, a lot of times we don't pick up, the part of the reason I asked you to focus on what are some of the signs you'd see as a classroom teacher is it's those internalizing behaviors that we don't pick up on, right? Because that's a quiet, usually it's a female, more often it's female than male that's internalizing, oh, they're not messing up my classroom. They're just back in the corner somewhere, not bothering me, right? Or eating disorders. Eating disorders are extremely, can end up with death. Many people who end up with certain kinds of eating disorders die. So do we notice that in the classroom? Chances are no, right? That's a more internalizing behavior. Yet you as classroom teachers are going to be spending the most time with these children outside of any other person in their lives. And what's the best way to deal with this is to have a relationship with all your children, even the ones you don't like so much, because we're human beings, right? And if I have a kid saying, excuse my language right now, but I've had children that I've taught that told me to fuck off, right? Don't take it personally. It's not you. Could be anyone, right? So anyway, unless you're a special ed teacher, unless you're certified in special ed and work with this population, still to this day, most of these children's LRE are segregated schools and segregated classrooms. Now, that's not to say some of these children can't be included, because they can with the proper supports. But your textbook and your PowerPoint will point to the fact that many of these children will be segregated into segregated environments. We should try to support them into inclusive environments as much as possible. Why? Why should we, when we can, try to support children into inclusive environments? What, any guesses or comments or opinions?
I was gonna say maybe the more time they're away from like the general education classroom, like it could be harmful because they're not, I don't know how to explain it, like, you know, with kids their age who are like them, like they're more isolated, that could be a bad thing.
Yeah, I mean, so hopefully we will get them around good models and support relationship building. The problem is a lot of times these are children who become the bullies, right? Potentially. And so we have to really make sure the supports are there to not just protect them, but to protect others in the classroom as well. What I'd like to do now, again, I'm not going to have you share your screens, but maybe from each group, if you can tell me one thing, because I asked you to say, what might you notice in the classroom? Tell us one thing about what you might notice in the classroom as a teacher. Depression group, what is something that a teacher, if they had a child that's depressed, might notice in the classroom? Skylar.
If they're depressed, you might notice just like spurts of anger or like
Skylar Godfrey, I'm sorry. Skylar Godfrey's in the depression group, not you.
Like complaints of feeling sick or isolation, like poor completion of work, not completing work.
Mm-hmm. Good. So definitely isolation, difficulty completing things because they just can't due to their depression. It's overwhelming, right? Good. OCD group, Nina, what is one thing in the classroom the teacher might pick up on?
You'll see like repeated behaviors and they might like be stuck in like one like thing, like task they're doing.
Mm-hmm. Right. So OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. Now, some of you might say, well, I have that. Well, you might have that. Maybe you got to keep checking a light before you leave or something. But it becomes a problem when it impacts your life, right? So these are extreme, right? So if you have the child who is so routinized that maybe become aggressive when you try to interrupt their routine, that might be something. Eating disorder group, Kashia, what's something you might notice in the classroom?
Child taking bathroom breaks after snacks or after lunch.
Exactly. Very good. And it might be that, you might need to go into the bathroom. Okay. You might see some vomit on a toilet seat. You might smell it, right? So that's something, if we suspect, we might need to do. Substance abuse group, Lindsay, what might you notice in the classroom?
We said like less motivation to do work, leaving the classroom more often, like impaired speech, or like you can see it in eyes sometimes with certain substances and breath.
So exactly. So yeah, so we can see it, we can smell it. Certainly it's going to impact cognition, impact movement, all of those things. That's probably going to be an easier one to pick up on. Trauma group, Kelly.
So the child might feel jumpy, startled, or nervous when something triggers a memory of whatever trauma caused it.
Right. So we all experience trauma, but this is trauma that impacts our learning. It's either a startle reflex, and a lot of times teachers don't know what will trigger a child. I worked with a child who had been sexually abused, a male child, and I didn't know it about him. And I actually, when I went to sort of just lightly push him a little bit to, I was, come on, let's go. We got to move out of the classroom. He turned to me and put his fists up. Luckily, I knew him well. He had a relationship with me. I said, it's okay. It's all right. Sorry. Let's just got to move out of the classroom, right? I found out subsequently later he was a foster child. He had been sexually abused in foster care. So a lot of times as teachers, we do things and we don't know what will trigger children. And maybe we don't know the trauma they have experienced. But don't assume that a child's just being difficult to be difficult, right? Neurodevelopmental group. This was a big group. This was, there was a lot involved here. Bethany, what did you come up with?
So in the classroom, you would see it normally in other disabilities that they would have. So that would be in like ADHD or another learning disability, or also cerebral palsy is in there, along with any vision or hearing impairments.
Yeah, so really broad category, really impacting neurology, their development. But yeah, cognition will definitely be impacted in many of these children. And breakout room number 8, you had personality disorder. What did you come up with, Mariah? What did you come up with there?
So there's a lot of different types of personality disorders, but we said like some things you might be able to recognize are like impulse control. They might seem like odd, eccentric, dramatic, emotional. They might like change their emotions quite often and dramatically, things like that.
Yeah. So it's good to have a sense of when you're noticing something, right? What do you do as a classroom teacher? Well, certainly I would go to the school psychologist. I would go to the school social worker. I would, try to get a sense of, because you're not going to diagnose, right? You're not the person who diagnoses the child by any means, but you are one of the most important people in the child's life, right? So when you notice these things, trying to form a relationship with a child, trying to get a sense of, will they share anything with you? And referring the child for support if the child needs it. It's never good to ignore, never good to ignore. So whatever we can do. What I'm going to do, so watch your eyes. I'm going to flip pretty quickly through the PowerPoint to see if there's anything I want to point out to you that certainly the definition is always important. The definition is important in all of these categories. But one thing that you'll see here, which I sort of made reference to, is that whatever you see has to be over a long period of time. So if I see a child, say, come into my classroom crying for a week, right? Is that a long period of time? No. No. So I could be crying for a week because I just had a loss in my family. Maybe I lost a pet, right? And that's impacting me certainly for that week. But it's not an emotional disturbance, right? It's not clinical depression, right? So 6 months is a long period of time, right? I would send up red flags about 2-3 months. I wouldn't wait 6 months, but the definition says we need to see it for a long period of time to a marked degree, right? So again, if I hit a child once, maybe because I'm angry, not that that's good, but if I'm aggressive, every other day to a marked degree, that could be a problem. So we need to, of course, pay attention to the definitions. Now, you see that there's also in this category, the mental health community gets involved. So that's part of the reason I had you do this activity with the DSM-5. So we know that the National Coalition on Mental Health does give us definitions as well. And here's some of the categories you looked at. This is a category, this is the 4th largest category of all the categories served in special ed. There's a high prevalence, but we have to be careful because too often it's more boys than girls we're referring. We don't want to label children with emotional disturbance. We don't want to do that unless we really need to. Girls are under-identified, so girls are more often depressed. We over-identify children who are African-American, particularly African-American males. So there's cultural stuff we need to address that, before we quickly jump and make any kind of diagnosis. So we need to be careful, all right? And a lot of times it's the regular ed teachers doing the referrals. So what factors contribute, as in all chapters, but this category is, I guess I'll say interesting in that a lot of times it's the home environment that contributes to the emotional disturbance category. So if a child lives with parents who are mentally ill, have mental ill challenges. Last week I was called in to do an IEP meeting where both of the family members, they lived in a rural community, had substance abuse disorders. So children and youth was involved. And that child had a category diagnosis of emotional disturbance. So a lot of times you will see home environment. We talked about internalizing and externalizing behaviors. That's important to understand the difference. And then each of the characteristics. Now, some of the DSM-5 have the same characteristics addressed in your PowerPoint chapter. So depression, anxiety, anger, fears. But these are children who a lot of times can have average IQs. So it's not that cognitively they can be low, although a lot of times they will have lower cognitive ability because they're missing a lot of work due to behaviors, right? High risk for dropping out, high risk dropout for school. Really have to, these are children that could benefit from a lot of support. And then it gets into the assessment and how we define. Now, what can be confusing a lot is number 3, right? Social maladjustment is not emotional disturbance, right? So if I'm socially maladjusted, meaning I just, I hanging out with the wrong peer group, that kind of thing, that does not mean that we immediately categorize a child with having emotional disturbance. All right, and then we get the risk factors. Questions or comments? Has anyone worked with children with emotional disturbance? Again, if you are, Jen, I don't know how many of you are dual special ed, but if you're special ed, you have certainly a chance that you work with this population. In gen ed, you will not see this population as much. Can you? Sure, potentially. When I worked in Philadelphia, I taught children within this category, and some of the children were brilliant. The one little guy I taught he came in second in the school-wide spelling bee of a school of 1,000 children. But his behaviors were pretty significant, pretty severe. But not everyone understands this category, because what happened is teachers that didn't understand the category said, well, truly he shouldn't be in special ed. It wasn't his cognition that got him in special ed. It was his behaviors, right? So that was the issue.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Sorry about that. So I used to work at a daycare, and it went from infants to pre-K, and I worked in like the pre-K room a lot, and we did have a boy who had major anger issues, emotional issues, and he had a person, some type of therapist or psychologist or someone in that area that came every day to sit and observe him. And so I didn't know it could start that young, but it can.
Yeah, it really can. It's hard to diagnose in younger children, but it can, particularly children who have, a genetic history of mental illness in their families. So yeah, and a lot of times you have a good point, Anna, in that a lot of times children will have a one-on-one paraprofessional or aide or behaviorist with them as well. And some of you might do behavioral work in the future where you serve as a one-on-one for children as well. Good. Other questions or comments? I just want to point out, because there was a question in the beginning of class. So getting back to this, just drop your work into the Dropbox. I will see it. And then this discussion board, I know it's a little confusing, but essentially what I want to make sure you're doing is just looking at it as a group. And then you don't all have to answer all these questions. Maybe one person can take one another. But I want to see that you've addressed these questions in some way. Or maybe if you all answer them at the, adding to what one person started. So I don't think you need to look at it as we all need to answer every single question, but you all need to address it at some point. I agree for this reason, I disagree for that reason, that kind of thing. Okay? Everyone good? Okay, that is all I have for today. I will stay on a couple minutes, but then I'm going into my 4:15 office hours. Now, those of you that asked to see me in my office hours, I sent you the link. Otherwise, guys, have a good week. Okay? See you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just have one quick question about the interview. So I already completed the interview. I was wondering if you needed our notes from the interview.
You can attach your notes as well. Sure.
Okay. And then what is the format you're looking for? The summary of all the interview and paragraph format, and then the reflection right after it, or?
Yep.
Okay.
That's fine.
All right. Thank you.
Yep. You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Otherwise, just press pound to continue. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound. You have joined the meeting as an attendee and will be muted throughout the meeting.
Hello?
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Demetrius Jaggers, and I serve as the Senior Director of the Dowdy Multicultural Center at Westchester University. In participation with State Farm Insurance, WCU Center for Women and Gender Equity, Student Leadership and Involvement, and the Center for Civic Engagement and Social Impact, I would like to welcome you to the second annual Ruby Jones Conference on Race, Social Justice, and Civic Engagement. My apologies. The second annual Ruby Jones Conference on Race, Social Justice, and Civic Leadership. Thank you for being here today and for taking the time to engage in this learning experience at such an important time in history. The goal of this conference is to create an educational environment where students can engage in learning that will raise awareness and promote action-oriented dialogue about racial, cultural, and social issues that impact how students experience life on campus, in community,